Hello everyone, I am Jeetu Patel. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Cisco, and I am here today with Sachin to talk on his podcast, HackerRank India, for the teen audience. And I'm going to try to see if I can share with you some of my experiences that might be helpful to you as you're going through these years. I know that there's a lot that you typically have to figure out during your teen years. I've been a teen, of course, and it was a hard time. So if you are going through a hard time, hopefully a few of these pieces of advice might help. Looking forward to it.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the HackerRank show. We're Silicon Valley's first business, self-improvement, and tech podcast for teens, hosted by a teen, me. I'm Sachin Syal. I'm an 18-year-old award-winning entrepreneur, podcaster, author, and student from the Bay Area, and I interview remarkable and influential entrepreneurs, executives, investors, and leaders from all walks of life so we can learn from their stories and level up ourselves. I'm also the co-founder and CEO of 3doshas.com. I started a coaching company to help people level up through yoga and Ayurveda with 3doshas energies. And the purpose of this show is to inspire you to go for it, which is what the Punjabi word ochakde means. Today, our very special guest is Jeetu Patel, who is Cisco's Executive Vice President and Chief Product Officer. Prior to joining Cisco, Jeetu was the Chief Product Officer and Chief Strategy Officer at Box, and he's also been a top executive at EMC and Doculabs, and he's also on the board of JLL, Equinix, and HackerRank. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Information Decision Sciences from the University of Illinois, Chicago, and he graduated with honors, and he lives in the San Francisco Bay Area with his family. So Jeetu Patel.
Good to see you, man. And what are you going to do after you're not a teen? Just stop doing the show?
Oh, you know, a lot of people have actually asked me that. Yeah. So that's a good question. If I'm 18 now, technically when I'm 19, I'm still a teen. So I can say I'm a teen, but when I'm 20 and above, I'm going to continue the show. I'll just change the intro. But I'm definitely going to be doing this my whole life, man. The same way like you love doing stuff at Cisco, this is my life for me. That's awesome. This is like my purpose and my passion. And when people like you are there to support me, like guys, by the way, we're here at the Cisco headquarters in San Jose, and this is a beautiful studio too. This is only the second time it's been being used too. That's right. So yeah, when people like you support me, man, it keeps my dreams alive. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Happy to help.
Yeah. Let's start off with the first question. Yeah. What's new and exciting in your life?
Oh, there's so much new and exciting. I think there's, professionally, I think we're in probably one of the most profound times that humanity has been in with what's happening with AI.
Yeah.
And these kind of market shifts that happen, I've seen a few of them. I saw the one with the PC. Mm-hmm. I saw the one with SaaS, then with mobile. And, you know, it's a privilege to be in those kind of movements because there's a burst of energy. The culture changes. Yeah. People are really thinking about things differently. There's a hopefulness about stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think with AI, it's a great time to be alive in tech. How can you not be excited?
I couldn't agree more. Honestly, I think the AI revolution happening right now it's fascinating to me. Like the fact that I can tell, if I have kids, I can tell my kids, oh, I was like alive during the AI revolution and when all this stuff happened. Like it's just amazing stuff. And I also do think that, I mean, unfortunately, there are some people who are like scared of it and have a pessimistic view. I always think of it in a positive way. I think there's a lot of AI for good, and I think AI will do a lot of good stuff. I had another question though. I looked up what your name means. Does Jeetu mean winner?
It's short for Jitendra. Jitendra means, you have command over your senses.
Yeah, I really like that because I think that's what you've become. And another thing that
I don't know if I've become that.
I think you have. Maybe you don't think that, but me and my team.
Long way to go.
Long way to go.
This is a work in process, my friend.
Work in progress. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I also love your glasses and your shoes, by the way, too. They're awesome. Okay, I wanted to ask you, can you bring us back to your teen years? I was wondering, what was growing up like, and what was teenage Jeetu passionate about, and what were you into? Because my audience is mostly teens.
So my teen years were relatively hard because I grew up in India, but my dad was a kind of a high stakes con man. He was like Bernie Madoff.
Okay.
And so it was physically not safe for me.
Okay.
Because there were people trying to kidnap me. There were people trying to hold me hostage. That he had offended a lot of people. He had taken a lot of money from people. And so when I was 19, I decided to leave India and come here. And I initially came just for, getting away for a couple of months, and then I decided to go to school here and then stayed on. And it was probably the best decision of my life, but it wouldn't have happened had he not been as difficult to deal with. But we had a rough time for the my first 25 years weren't easy because my mother was not here. I was very close to my mother. She was in India. I didn't see her for 7 years. That was a hard time. And I think what that does is it builds character because hardships actually bring. So I think if you, as teens, are going through some hardship, just know that everyone goes through those, and you generally tend to, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and actually, so you just have to make sure that every single day you start fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually very inspiring, very, very well said as well. I think I totally agree with you that having hardships and setbacks actually is an advantage.
And most people have setbacks.
Yeah,
yeah.
I have had a lot of challenges myself too, and I think you're right. I think it does make you a better person. Thank you for sharing that with my audience.
I like the fact that you have an older brother that's so supportive of you. So
oh yeah, Sujay right there. Yeah, I love him. He's like one of my biggest mentors. I'm actually grateful all the time that I have someone who's older than me that's done stuff that I'm about to start, and I can always ask him for questions, ask him advice. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Your parents raised you well.
Yeah, I love my parents too. They're great parents.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into some fun Cisco stuff now.
Yes.
Can you explain in simple terms to my teen audience what is your role and what responsibilities do you have as the Executive Vice President and Chief Product Officer of Cisco?
Actually, it's not that complicated. Most tech companies, what do? We build product that we sell in the market. My job is to build the products that we sell. And so it's no different from a car company.
Yeah.
If you're in a car company, a chief product officer would be building cars and thinking about the next version of the car that they're going to build.
Yeah.
I think about the next version of the software we're going to build and which markets we're going to have software for. So if you have cars that are, sedans, and all of a sudden you want to get into the SUV market, that's a different market.
Yeah, 100%.
And in a similar vein, we started out in networking, and then we get into security, and then we get into observability, and each one of those are different markets, and we build products for those markets. So that's the job.
That's amazing. Honestly, like Cisco is a household company name. There's so many of my...
It's an iconic company. We're so lucky to
I know. So many of my friends, their parents work at Cisco, and I've heard of it for so long. I also love that it's the short San Francisco, and then also the lines.
Oh, you've done your research.
The Golden Gate Bridge.
Many people don't know about that.
You know who actually told me that?
Who told you that? Oh, your brother did?
He just told me that 20 minutes ago.
What's your brother's name?
Sujay.
Sujay.
Yeah. And I'm like, I love the Silicon Valley. That's why I chose San Jose State University as an advertising major, which I told you I'm starting this weekend. I just think the amount of opportunity that you can have here. Imagine if I was still a podcaster, Sachin Syal, 18 years old, but I wasn't in Fremont.
Yeah.
I would not be able to come and meet you here in San Jose.
That's right. That's right. No, I think proximity does unfortunately matter.
Yeah.
And
but it's
the reason I say unfortunately is I think it's geography shouldn't be the reason for access to opportunity, but it is that way right now. And I think over time, I'm hoping that someone in a village in Bangladesh has the same opportunity as someone in the heart of Silicon Valley. And I think the world's getting smaller, and I think video and, as you have more 3D communication with each other, the world will continue to shrink in size. But I think it's important so that we can have global access to opportunity.
What you just said, I actually think that could happen. The similarities as someone in a village in Bangladesh can have the same opportunity and success as someone in the heart of the Silicon Valley. I think with all the technology, especially stuff like Zoom and other companies.
WebEx. We make WebEx.
Yeah, I know that too. WebEx, Zoom, and other places as well. I think another thing is with all this technology, it makes it easier for people to connect online instead of being I need to come in person, especially with remote first companies too that are there as well. Moving on to the next question, I want to ask you, many people always wonder, how does someone become a top executive at a top tech company? So I want to ask you, how are you able to do that at so many companies? And in your opinion, what does it take to have such a high leadership position in like a really massive corporation?
I think the way to think about this is you don't start out by saying, I want to become a top exec. You start out by saying, what do I want to learn as skills, and what are the problems that I want to really go out and try to solve? And how am I going to get really good and get to be the world's best at solving those problems and the skills I want to learn? And over time, what that does is, if you have strong work ethic, if you have the right level of curiosity, if you have the right hunger, if you develop the right level of communication skills and don't get too focused on yourself, things will generally progress in the right direction. But if you start going too obsessive about, I want to be an executive of a company, the chances of you becoming one will be low, because you'll be focused too much on the vanity of the aspect rather than what it takes to actually make sure that you can do a good job when you're there.
It's kind of like how people say, oh, it's about the journey and not like where it ends up with this destination, right?
It's actually more about the learning that you need to do and the foundation that you have to build that you have to be very intentional about. You're going to learn something new every single time. But the question about what you want to spend your time learning is pretty important.
I agree. I was also going to ask you, because it's a teen audience for the Ochakde show. I think right now many people are thinking that it's it is kind of true. Like, it's currently difficult, people are saying, for young people to land internships and find jobs.
It is.
What would you say to teens like me? What should we be doing right now to stand out in the job market?
So the good news right now is it is easier today to learn than ever before in humanity. And it's only going to get easier over time. That's the great news. It is harder to go get a job right now. And I have a lot of people that are getting out of college that, are struggling getting jobs. In fact, I think 25% of the students out of top tier schools like Harvard have not gotten.
I saw that article.
Yeah, and they aren't finding jobs. So I do feel like there's a shortage of, opportunity, and companies have held back. But the way I would think about it as a person is, what are the unique skills? When you don't have a job, you should be working your hardest. And my advice to people in their teens is, do not be thinking about work-life balance during your teens. It is boot camp right now.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that you're taking care of your health, you're being great to your parents, and if you have a situation that allows for that. If not, then a lot of people don't have that too, and that's okay. And then you spend a lot of your time learning, because no one's going to hire a teen for their knowledge. You're going to hire the teen for the potential, and the potential comes from their hunger to want to learn. And so if you don't learn, if you're arrogant, if you start to become a know-it-all too soon, I think it becomes very hard for people to find you to be someone that they want to hire. So stay humble. Don't get too cocky. Listen more than you talk, because you've got two ears and one mouth. Use them proportionately. And I think there's a tremendous willingness in people to want to help the next generation out when you just make sure that you frame the question in the right way and you show initiative. Like, if someone says to me, hey, can you give me some advice? And then whatever advice I give them, they don't really take that to heart, then it's a waste of my time. But if they take that to heart and show initiative and say, okay, we had one of our neighbor's sons recently, and he was, he said, hey, what do you recommend I do? I'm graduating from college. I'm like, the first thing you should do is really get familiarized with what's happening with AI. He wanted to get a job in tech. And so I gave him a few podcasts, and I gave him a few lectures, and lectures from Stanford University. I'm like, go listen to these, and make sure that you're spending at least 13 to 14 hours a day learning. And he came back to me 3 days later and said, I've been doing 14 to 15 hours a day, and I'm making sure that I'm really, really focused on this. And thank you for doing this. That shows initiative. And the more we can have people that have intensity, because you're going to be, the moment you get in the workforce, there's no net. Like, if you screw up, you're out.
Yeah.
You know, and so you need to make sure that you're going out and being very diligent about not wasting other people's time. The reason you want to learn a lot is because you want to make sure that you can be valuable to the organization that you're in, and the more you understand the dynamics, and the more you know, and the more you understand what the shifts are in the market, the better off you're going to be, and the more valuable you're going to be, and that'll start coming across. And then right now, you folks can take risks.
Yeah.
You know, it's much harder to take risk when you've got 3 kids and you've got a house, and at that point in time, you need a certain amount of income. Right now, you can live on noodles and live with 5 roommates in a small apartment, and so do that and just hustle. Like the reason I agreed to be on your show is because you were creative. You hustled. You found my number. You reached out to me. You said, "Hey, can I do this? These are the other people that..." I'm like, this is a kid that's worth actually investing in because he's hungry. And you can teach a lot of things in life. You can't teach someone hunger. You either have hunger or you don't have hunger.
Wow. I really love what you said about hunger to learn. And it's so funny. So many of my guests recently have been saying my best advice to teens is to learn AI and learn it properly and actually spend time to do it. And thank you for the kind words, by the way. I do have that hunger, and I'm going to continue to have that hunger. And I think everybody should develop that. It doesn't have to be related to like AI on podcasts and stuff. Whatever you have, like teens, if you're watching, whatever you're passionate about, if it's music, art, cooking, anything, just like go full on in it. And like find mentors. I think what's beneficial for me is cold emailing and cold calling so many people like yourself, and then I build a relationship with you, and then you eventually become my mentor. And I think that's such a beautiful thing that happens.
It's great.
I want to ask you another question, and after I ask you this question, I'm gonna ask you a follow-up, but I'm gonna ask you the first one is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
There's so much. There's so many. You know, I think the importance of focus is hard to overestimate. And so one of my mentors, who is still my coach, tells me this all the time. He's like, you know, Jeetu, the important thing is to keep the important thing the important thing.
Wait, can you say that again?
The important thing is to keep the important thing the important thing. And usually, trying to get 15 things done, you won't get any of them done great. But if you get a couple of them done right, magic starts to happen. So it's a very simple rule, but very few follow it, which is just stay maniacally focused on something, and don't try to hedge your bets, because the moment you hedge, what you've done is you've given your psychological self an out, saying, if this doesn't work, I've got this other thing.
Yeah.
But when you actually have a no-net situation, you tend to make that first thing work. So try not to have too many kind of alternative options. So that's one thing I've learned. The other thing I've learned is the quality of problems that we decide to spend our time solving is directly proportionate to the success of the outcome. And it's very counterintuitive. So what I mean by that is, the harder the problem, the higher the likelihood of your success, which is completely counterintuitive, because you would think usually that, easier the problem. But the reason that's the case is the hard problems are the one that the best minds get attracted to. And business is a team sport. If you think you can get it all done by yourself, you will just be up for a rude awakening. The more you make people around you win, the more you will win. The less you try to make people around you win, the more you think of that as zero sum, the less relevant you will be over time.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. I love how you also talked about being maniacally focused. The follow-up question to that one is, what's the worst piece of advice you think you've ever received?
The worst piece of advice would be to think that you have to be, I think in order to be selfish, you have to be selfless first. In order for going out and doing something good for yourself, you have to make sure that the people around you are winning because of you. You know, so if you don't focus on them winning first, and if you focus on you winning first, chances are you won't win.
Got it. Moving on to the next question. I was really excited to ask this question, because what's next for Jeetu Patel? what are some of your future plans and your goals?
I think we're going to build a very large company out of Cisco. So I'm very focused on that goal. I'd like to build $1 trillion company.
Awesome. I think it's going to happen soon. And you've been at Cisco since 2020, right? So you've been here for a while. So are you planning to stay here for a while?
If they'll have me.
I mean, I think you're doing a really good job. So I think they're going to keep you.
You can never, I think in these things, you can't overplan these things. As long as you're having fun, you're learning, you're adding value to the company. If I find out someday that I'm not the best leader for this company, I'd step away so that someone else can do it. I think the company is more important than your personal interest on that dimension.
That's a really good way to look at it, especially as a top executive at a company like Cisco. These are the last 2 questions that I asked all my guests.
Yeah.
The first one is, what's your all-time best advice for teens?
All-time best advice for teens. I think teenage years are hard. I have a teenage daughter. She's 14. Teenage years are hard. And there's a lot that's going on. You're still trying to kind of come into the world and figure out what's happening. The advice I'd give you is anyone around you that you think has their shit figured out probably also has things that they're insecure about. And the thing that you have to keep in mind is if you just don't assume that what you see is okay. Steve Jobs had said this, which is constantly question the status quo. And if you question the status quo in a respectful way, try to be curious about why that happened, but don't assume that that's the right way to do it, because in this time there might be a different way to do it, and that different way might be a better way. And if you learn how to question it in a humble manner, you might come up with an idea that no one else had thought about. And those people that thought about it are no better than you. They just happen to have actually had enough boldness to go think about the idea. So I think this is a magical time.
I think so too. I agree, 100%. And I think I love what you said about questioning the status quo. That's what's super important. I think people should always be doing that. I mean, I don't know if this is like directly connected, but like when I started this podcast in January of 2022, the reason I started is because like there's not a single teen podcaster that interviews entrepreneurs, executives, and investors. Let me just start it and do it. Then I started it. It went well.
What you did there, which was really good, is you identified a market that was not being served. And you identified what you might be able to do, and then you hustled. And that actually is a really good thing. And you might succeed at this, you might fail at it. Who knows? But it was a great thing to do.
I think so.
And the reality is you got to get started. Don't plan too long. Just get going.
I agree 100%. I think a lot of people are held back by thinking you need to have a plan. Like, oh, this document needs to be fully filled down. I need to know exactly what I'm doing when I start. I didn't really do that. I just said, let me just cold email these people and see what happens. And then people like you get back to me and it works out. And I end up in a studio like this.
A bad decision is better than no decision.
Yeah. Bad decision is better than no decision. That's very well said. Okay, Jeetu, last question of the day.
Yes.
What was your favorite part of being guest on the HackerRank show today?
I try to spend a lot of my time with the early in career generation, because I learn a lot about things and it inspires me, because I think all of you folks have so much energy, and the older you get, the more jaded you get. Because you have experience, and experience can sometimes be a limiter, not an accelerant to success. And so you have to learn how to unlearn as you get older, because something that you might have thought was going to work might not work in the future. So you have to learn how to unlearn. And so, seeing you, and specifically seeing the dynamic between you and your brother, it's really nice because he's here supporting you. And he's making sure that he can actually do whatever he can to help you out so that you're successful and you look good. And that's leadership, and the fact that you're using his help and using him as a mentor shows humility. So keep doing what you're doing. I think you kids are going to do great. And the world's a really exciting place if you choose to make it so. And when your teenage audience, if some of you are getting discouraged because you're going through a hard phase in life, just know that the ones that get through it, there's goodness that comes out of it. I'd rather have gone through every hardship during my teenage years because it's much harder to go through hardship later in life. So if you're getting through life right now, it's conditioning you for the world in the right way. Think of that as a blessing, not as a curse. You know?
What a great way to end off the episode. And I'm so grateful. Huge fan of Cisco, WebEx, even the studio. I was like, this is the first time I've ever even been in this. I didn't expect this because it might have been, we didn't know if it was going to be this or another room. But Jeetu, I mean, honestly, that was awesome.
Hey,
that was an
congratulations on all you're doing. Keep doing it. Keep hustling, man.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Take care.